set to take on Purdue in a game that hasn't been played since the late 90s. But although we don't see this matchup often, there is plenty of familiarity between these two squads. USC's quarterback Jaden Mayava used to be Barry Odom's quarterback at UNLV, and Purdue's offensive coordinator Josh Henson spent the last 3 years with Lincoln Riley at USC. Now, while we're on the subject of offense, very few have been as explosive as USC's for the first 2 weeks. They rank first in FBS in points per game, yards per game, and yards per play. They average over a first down per play so far to start this season. So get ready for the game of the week between USC and Purdue, 3:30 Eastern on CBS. All right, that's my spiel. Now let's send it over to Danny Kanell, who is with someone that is about as close as it gets to this game. Danny?
That's right, Emily. I love talking to coaches. I love it even more after a 2-0 start because you guys are usually in a good mood. We got Lincoln Riley joining us this morning. How are we doing, Coach?
We're doing good, Danny. Good to see you.
It's great to see you, too. The 2-0 start, it's been great. We're just looking at some of the numbers off the charts. I know the competition is going to get a lot tougher as the season goes on. You get into conference play, but how pleased have you been with the execution so far early?
I think the guys have done a good job. It's been great in the first couple of games to be able to play so many players on our roster, both offensively, defensively, and on special teams. I think it's been a great evaluation tool for us as we get into, kind of the meat of our schedule. We get into the Big Ten play to be able to see all these different guys perform. And like everybody, I mean, we're excited about some of the things we've done. We've got a lot of improvement to go, but certainly off to a good start and looking forward to our first, Big Ten road game.
We've seen a lot of quarterbacks across the country, new starters. You have a new starter for this season, but he did get to play a lot last year, played a lot at UNLV. How much did him getting to play at the end of last season help him in your system, make him more comfortable as you've gotten into this one?
I think it was very important. Jaden played pretty well for us at the end of last year. We went 3-1 with him, and he really gave us a chance to win all 4 of those games that he started. And I think he's just continued that momentum into the offseason. He's more confident in what we're doing offensively. I think in himself as a leader, being a quarterback and having to understand all the situational aspects of the game is something that I think he worked a lot on during the offseason, and we've seen that here the first couple of weeks. So he's been a steadying presence for us and just needs to continue to stack up as many routine plays as he possibly can. He's done a good job of that up to this point.
He's got some weapons to work with, too. Makai Lemon is somebody that really started to show some signs last year, and I think he's got potential to be one of the top wideouts in the entire country. And a lot of guys get a lot of attention. I think he's kind of flying under the radar. How good do you think he could be? How good do you think your wide receiving core in general stacks up against some of the best out there?
Yeah, Makai's certainly not under the radar for us. He's been a really productive player. He was our most productive receiver last year, and is another guy that's just kind of continued that in terms of his growth as a player. And our quarterbacks, our really entire team, have a lot of confidence and faith in him, and he's really proven himself not only offensively but being a really good special teams player as well. So that's been pretty cool to see his evolution. We like our receiving core. We've been able to get a lot of different guys involved here in the first couple of weeks. I think we've been able to create some depth that we know we're going to need going through this Big Ten schedule. But we feel like we've got some playmakers out there that give us some advantages every time we step on the field.
You mentioned that Big Ten schedule. Last year, first year in the league, there was a lot of question marks how the teams from the West Coast would do traveling. The amount of travel puts a toll on the players. And I know you made some adjustments this year. Kind of what went into that thinking? Did you go back and study things, or was it like just the new plane, like the way you're approaching the travel this season? It seems a little bit different.
Yeah, I think, Danny, the biggest difference for us has just been really the entire week. We were able to get back on a schedule that was a little bit closer to what, we all did when we were at Oklahoma in terms of just how the entire week's laid out, which we think leads us to being a little bit, more fresh and more prepared, especially when you do have this travel. It is different, these different time zones, getting back and forth, all of that. And so we've made a few changes in terms of the actual direct travel, but I think our bigger changes are on how we lay out the week for our guys, how we practice, how we recover, and we're excited about those changes, excited to put them on display.
I know you made a change to your strength and conditioning staff this offseason, pretty late in the game. With the new staff there in place, new offseason training program, have you seen the returns yet to feel pretty good and better about your team physically?
Yeah, I'm excited about the improvements that we've made there. As you said, it was a late change. Coach Tremaine Carroll came in, had a couple of months with our team. I thought he and his staff did an outstanding job, not only in the training but just the discipline of our guys on a day-to-day basis. And that was, we felt like that was something that was needed to help us continue to take the next step in our program. And so I think our guys did a great job of buying into it. All of that's going to get put to the test now. That's the beautiful thing. Is we can hype up or speculate or do whatever we want, but now it's all going to be settled on the field, and our guys are going to get a chance to go prove how good of a move that was.
No doubt. When you look at the overall picture of college football, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I'm curious to know from an offensive mind, we saw the helmet communications in there for a piece. Have you kind of evolved in the way you've utilized it? Has it been pretty much what you thought, that ability to communicate with your quarterbacks?
I think it's been pretty expected. I mean, I know a lot of us last year when this was coming into the fold, we all communicated with people that we knew in the NFL to try to get a feel for, what this would be like. And I think it's been pretty steady. I think honestly, the bigger change, in my opinion, has been the use of tablets and live video in game. I honestly think that's changed the game probably more than people realize. And you go from the NFL obviously has the still shots. We had nothing. You just had to rely on just what you saw on the previous play, chart it, remember it, all of that. Now we went completely to the other side, and we can replay and watch every play from different angles. So I think that's had a big impact on the game from a strategy standpoint, and I think all of us are probably still adapting to that here in year two.
We talked to Dan Mullen a week ago. He said it was like cheating because he's back in college now, and he's like, I can't believe we get to look at these videos, show exactly what you're looking at. That's a huge advantage. I totally agree, man. I was in the day when you had the Polaroids that you could hardly see. They were blurry. It was pretty brutal to try to see what was going on. I want to ask you something, because I've noticed with the trend of quarterbacks that it almost becoming a requirement to have a quarterback who can run the football. Is that the way you see it when you evaluate? And Jaden's no different. He's pretty mobile. He can get it done in the ground game as well. Is the day of the passing quarterback, like the pure pocket passer, is that something that is a dinosaur that we're going to see as an extinct breed?
I think it's going to continue to get more and more rare. I think a guy's going to have to be so good from the pocket to justify not having somebody that can move or at least be a threat to the defense. That I just think the margin for error for those guys is just so different. So, yeah, I think the game has changed a lot. I mean, the game at our level's changed. The game at the NFL level's changed a lot, especially the amount of time that those guys have with their players. So I do think you're going to continue to see more athletic guys. And in the past, it was all, well, you had to be, 6'2" plus and be able to throw the ball and read defense and all that. And, obviously in the last several years, we've seen a lot of guys succeed, with smaller quarterbacks, which brings at times more athletic guys into the fold. So, we certainly, look to recruit guys that have some athleticism. I never want it to be the first thing that they do, but I definitely want to have that tool at our disposal.
No doubt. When you look at Purdue and you look at them with a new staff, a lot of turnover on the roster itself, I think they have 54 new players. Have you seen enough yet in 2 games? Do you still go back and study what Barry Odom was doing last year? How does that preparation evolve for you as you're getting ready for this opponent early in the season?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mix. It's nice that we've been able to at least see a couple of games, especially like you said, from a personnel standpoint. This day in college football, you can be coming up and play a team that has like no returning starters, and as you said, 50 plus new players. And, it's unique to try to grab individual film for those guys from all the different places that maybe they transferred in from. So, it's good to be able to have a couple of games under our belt. We've certainly studied a little bit of what they did at UNLV, but this is a different group, a different set of skills that they're working with. But to give them credit, I mean, they've done a great job. Teams played well here in the first couple of weeks. They played really good defensively, and looks like some of the new guys that they brought in have really came in and made a strong impact for them here throughout the first couple of weeks.
There was a popular topic this week was the transfer portal window. I think every coach was like, just give us one. Like, we don't need two windows. And then with the new date that came out, that January 2nd, the 10-day window starting then, there's been some coaches that have pushed back. Some said it's good. What to you is the perfect spot on the calendar to put that transfer portal window?
I mean, unfortunately, there's not one, and I mean, you hear the arguments, guys, have come out vocally and said, well, hey, this shouldn't be during the playoffs, which, I mean, I agree. I mean, to think that the NFL would be having the NFL playoffs and then just free agency right in the middle of it, like, that would never happen. And then but the flip side of it is, like, where do you put it? Because you do want to get your roster set. Guys got to get in school. And so I just think the system, honestly, right now doesn't make for a good place to put it, because you're battling two things. You're battling the calendar to play the playoffs and the national championship game versus college semesters. And those two things don't jive in a lot of ways. So I got to be honest, I don't know where you put it. I'm glad that we just have one. There's going to be some sacrifice one way or another. Is there the perfect spot the way that the game's played right now? I don't see it, and it's just going to continue to be debated on which one's best.
You've done a phenomenal job with quarterbacks. You've coached quite a few that are playing now in the NFL. I'm curious, because I know you guys are you have to dive in and get ready for the next opponent, and you're usually diving in deep on film at the college level. But do you get a chance to sit back and watch Sundays and watch some of your quarterbacks that you've coached up play?
We're normally, moving on to the next opponent and getting the game put to bed. But I certainly do have my phone by me and checking scores. And occasionally, if I need a break from film or whatever, I'll flip the TV over and just see how one of the guys are doing. I always love it when they're the Thursday night game, because that's the night we get home a little bit earlier. So I always hope that our guys land on that one, because I get to watch the whole game. But no, it's cool. It's cool seeing, those five guys playing. It's cool seeing all the different guys we've been able to coach throughout the years, living out that dream and making a big impact at that level. So yeah, a lot of pride and excitement when I get a chance to watch those guys play.
Last one for you. Does Jaden remind you of anybody you've coached before, like as a skill set, as a kind of leadership qualities? Does he remind you of anybody you've coached?
His temperament reminds me some of Jalen, in terms of how steady that kind of both those guys are, that, don't get too high, don't get too low. So I see some of his temperament there. He's a very, very decisive player. Baker was incredibly decisive of where he was going to go with the ball, and Jaden has that same decisiveness. But he's definitely unique in some ways too. He's the biggest guy that we've had in a while. We had all the Smurfs there for a while, so now we finally got a guy with some size. But yeah, he's doing a good job. He just continued to be himself and continue to grow, and it'll be fun to watch him evolve.
It's fun watching him play, fun watching him develop. He's been playing outstanding. Best of the luck against Purdue. Best of luck the rest of the season. Appreciate the time.
Anytime. Thanks, Danny.
Casual just slid in. He had 5 guys that he coached are starting in the NFL right now. A lot of coaches would love to say that. It's big time on CBS. Catch USC at Purdue at 3:30. You can watch it on CBS or streaming on Paramount+.